Hey guys, welcome back to Virtual Vertex. In today's video we're going to be creating a photorealistic Monstera plant and then setting it up for a render inside of Unreal Engine. A quick apology for no videos of the past 2 to 3 weeks. I've had crazy amount of interviews and stuff, and I will be starting a new job in just under 2 weeks time, which is super exciting. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it and start making this Monstera. So now we're inside of 3ds Max. I'm going to keep it on a time lapse, and the first thing we're going to get to modeling is the plant pot. There's no crazy techniques going on here, just super basic, so enjoy the music and just follow along, and I'll check back in when we get to the next step. So now we've got our pot done, the next step we're going to want to do is add our soil layer, as well as I want to add some pebbles on top of that, and we'll be running a simulation to get them scattered out kind of more naturally across the top of the pot. Until we get to that point, I'm going to be quiet, and then I'll jump back in when we go over how to run the simulation. Okay, so now we've got all of our pebbles created, we are going to then run a physics simulation to have them stack inside of the pot. So I think we actually have a bit too many, so I'm just gonna remove a few. Like so. We have all the pebbles selected, and now we're gonna want to add mass effects to the toolbar. So to do that, we'll just right click and it'll be towards the bottom right here. So that's added in. We want this toolbar also. Just pop that over to the left. Now the first thing we want to do is make these into dynamic rigid bodies. So we just hold left click on these two shapes here, drop down, and now that's set up. You see it's created the meshes for that. The next thing we want to do is go to the pot itself, and this one needs to be a static rigid body. So now we've got that done, we can go to the third panel here, scroll down, and physical mesh for the pot we want to set to original. Now that's all of this set up, and now we just hit the play, which is on the second tab here, to run the simulation. And like so, we have our pot filled with pebbles. And now we can get on to modeling the plant itself. So now the pot is done, the next step I'm going to move on to is the leaves. I've already gone and photoshopped some images of leaves from the Monstera that's right next to me, and then from there I'm just going to cut them out and get them ready to put onto the stems. So again, I'll be quiet and you can watch my process here. So now I've cut out the leaves. You can see I've added a quadify modifier on top just to increase the amount of geometry making up each leaf. The reason for that, it will allow us to deform and transform a leaf to a more natural shape when we get to that point. And I'm going to repeat this process for the next 2 leaves until we get to making the stems. Okay, so now the leaves are done, we're just gonna make the stems, and this is as simple as just going into the side view and creating some splines. Obviously, once you've got your splines done in the side view, there'll be a longer flat plane, so you'll have to come out and adjust where the vertices are, just so you can cover the plant in a 360 angle view, so it's not flat. So now we've got the stems done, I'm basically just going to duplicate over the leaves and add an FD modifier and warp them to a more natural shape. Once that's done, I'm going to move the pivot point to where the stem would meet the leaf itself and then align them with the stems that we've just created. So now our Monstera is pretty much done, but I want to go in and add some extra details, as Monstera plants tend to have extra roots shooting off the main stems heading back down to the ground. So that's what we're adding here. And then once that's done, we're going to do a quick unwrap for all of the parts, and then we will be texturing. Okay, so now we've got Substance Painter open. I'm gonna drop in our model. New. Select Monstera. Drop that in. And we have these. We don't need the leaves textures. We're making that outside. Let's start with the pot. Hide everything else. So I was thinking maybe a concrete and kind of resin texture to keep it nice and simple, or maybe a darker concrete for a lighter concrete on top. Let's just play around. Okay. Let me see if I can see the seam. Yep, so we've got a seam here, and now a way we can kind of hide that if we go on UV English. Sorry. If we go on to UV projection and go to triplanar, we can see with this slider bar we can kind of hide the seam, which is great. So now we're basically just continuing to texture the rest of the pot. I already had an idea in mind where the lower half would be a concrete and the upper half would be a marble with some kind of like gold leaf detailing on top of the marble, which you will see me do later on. So now we've got the main base textures down, I'm going to add a mask on top of a gold texture that I've added in, then add a fill layer, and on that top of that fill layer I'm going to add a mask. This one we go for a diamond one, which we started off with, but we go through and try a few different ones and see what we like best. And then we essentially have our pot. Now we've got our pot and the textures on there. Obviously your pots aren't always going to be squeaky clean, so we're going to add a dirt layer and then a mask on top of that, just to help bring the pot itself a bit more into the real world with dirt lower down and building its way up. So now we've got our pot done, the next thing we want to do is add a soil material on, as well as a material onto the pebbles. Now for the pebbles I just go for a basic concrete, and then we play around with the different slider bars here to get a look that we're happy with. So now essentially we've got all of our materials done. I'm going to be making a basic stem material inside of the Unreal Engine. So we're just going to want to export everything we've got here, and then we will be jumping right into the Unreal Engine and applying the materials. So now we've got our materials imported into the Unreal Engine. We're gonna quickly set them up. First we're gonna start off with the leaves, add in the base color, the mask and the roughness, which were all made within Photoshop. As you can see, I had some trouble with the roughness mask and it just kept coming up super shiny, but I eventually find a solution by just adding a multiplier and then increasing the multiply value to around 5, between 3 and 5 I believe. Then again here, we're just making a super basic material for the stem, just using a single base color, and then trying to match that as closely as we can to the existing leaves that we have. So now the plant itself is done, we're going to move over to the other materials. Now for all of the ones that we made in Substance, we'll have this compressed file that we do have here with the ambient occlusion, roughness and metallic values all compressed into the RGB channels. You want to open up all of them materials and turn the sRGB tick box off, as you just saw. And then when hooking up here, as you can see, the red is ambient occlusion, the green is your roughness, and the blue will be your metallic values. And again, we go through this on all of the other materials of our object here and set them up the same way. So now we have our Monstera plant done, we're going to want to set up a basic scene to render the pot in. Basically we're just using the basic shape, so you can see on the left side of the panel here, and add in some of the starting materials that exist inside of the Unreal Engine. So you can see here I just play around until I get to a point that I'm happy. Now to help break up the background, I downloaded the Megascans Ivy pack, and you can see how I'm using it here to break up the repetitiveness of the concrete texture in the background and also add a bit more green to the environment. Okay, so now we've gone and added our ivy into the background. I've adjusted the plants around so we have them slightly out of focus, with the front one being in focus. Now what we're going to want to do is to take a high resolution screenshot. To do that, we'll just hit F11, the arrow in the top left, drop down, high resolution screenshot, and we'll keep that on 1, and then we will take that. And there we go, basically have what is our final render. Again guys, thanks for watching. If you like these 3D kind of tutorial slash time lapses, be sure to like and subscribe and comment down below if you want to see anything particular. In the future I'm going to be focusing more kind of game ready assets on the next video, as well as working on a post on how I worked my way from passing my degree to becoming a junior environment artist at Dovetail Games. So yeah, peace out.